In the 90s, there was no short supply of cop movies. You had Rush Hour, Men in Black, Reservoir Dogs, and Kindergarten Cop. And the list just kind of goes on and on. Like, Men in Black was one of my favorite movies growing up, and whenever I see it on the TV, I usually flip it on. And all of these movies were good in their own right, but they all lacked one key detail. None of them had a main character that used a freaking katana. And after doing a little bit of dumpster diving, I think I found the exact movie that I was looking for. Samurai Cop. And I get it. I know exactly what you're thinking. How could there be a movie about a cop who's also a samurai? Well, let me tell you. And the movie's about Joe and Frank, who get transferred to the LA Police Department in order to break up some gang that's, I guess, dealing in cocaine. And you might be wondering, what makes Joe and Frank so special to be called in for this operation? Well, Joe's kind of a samurai. I do mean kinda. I don't even know if he's really a samurai. He doesn't really even do any samurai things throughout the entire movie. And something that I thought was funny on the Wikipedia page for this movie, where it says that Joe is a samurai, it has it in quotation marks, like that's even a question. Like they would be questioning our boy Joe. He's a samurai, come on. Also, the fact that it has fluent in Japanese in quotation marks is like a whole nother can of worms, but I'll get into that later. And what I think is crazy is this movie only cost $7,000 to make, which I guess kind of makes sense for like a small budget movie like this, but it made somehow over $350,000 without even having a theatrical release. And this movie is so bad, it doesn't even have a critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, but there were a few brave souls that did give it a review. Like Luke Parker, who said, "I have no plans on ever watching Samurai Cop ever again. 0 out of 5. And the funny thing is, before I even heard about this movie or even knew it existed, I heard about the sequel, so maybe I'll do a video on the sequel down the line. Who knows? Maybe? But enough talking about that. Let's get into the movie. First, the movie begins with one of the sickest guitar riffs that I've ever heard, probably since Troll 2, but I don't know, the Troll 2 one was pretty good too. And what's up with the title sequence of this movie being so long? Like, I'm pretty sure they just show every actor that's in this entire movie. Also, just to be clear, this is the first scene of the movie. It just kind of tosses you in the middle of like the main villains having a conversation about the plot and what they're doing and all these deals. Like, I feel like I missed 10 chapters and this is just how it all starts. Plus, when the leader of the gang walks out, he walks right over to the camera and you can see the camera reflecting in his sunglasses, and then in the very next scene he takes it off and he's just dead staring right in the middle of the camera. And this is another thing that's so common in this movie. I'm pretty sure in every scene at least one actor just looks right into the camera. And then in this one scene later, I'm pretty sure Frank looks at the camera like 3 times in the exact same shot. And at first I was counting how many times people looked at the camera, but once that passed 30, I just kind of gave up. And then the Katana Gang is headed for their first deal. Oh yeah, that's another thing I forgot to mention. The main villains in this movie are just called the Katana Gang, which is just so freaking cheesy. Like, come on, you couldn't be more creative than that. And I just have to show you the audio from one of the guys in this scene. Like, it is just so freaking weird.
In no way we go under Fujiyama's flag.
I have no idea what can make audio sound so bad. Like, it sounds like they re-recorded his audio in like a freaking shipping container or something. And then out of nowhere, Yamashita pulls out a knife, he stabs the guy that they were supposed to be making a deal with, and then some dude in the back just pulls out his gun and starts shooting everybody. Like, they were there to make a deal and they're like, nope, we're not. And then just kill everybody for some reason. And while the Katana Gang is busy stabbing another gang, we get introduced to our heroes, Joe and Frank. And Joe is honestly just kind of an asshole throughout this entire movie, and he just says the most inappropriate and just out-of-pocket things. And to be honest, he's just a shitty cop.
I'm lying there in bed with probably the most beautiful woman I've ever met in my life.
Hey, what are you talking about?
I'm just kidding, you know you're number one. So anyway.
And then in that scene, they had to redub over some other line, and it is just so bad.
Are you sure this is a good bust?
Yeah, cocaine.
And I think Joe says, yeah, I do, to what Frank asks, but for some reason, they just redubbed over it, and he goes, yeah, cocaine.
Yeah, cocaine.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine somebody doing that. Like subscribing to Jimblur on YouTube. I also want to know why they have a helicopter trying to help them find the goons for this bust, because like it's supposed to be a stealth operation, and I'm pretty sure a helicopter is not stealthy. And you know how I said Joe says the most like out of pocket and inappropriate things? Well, he has this really weird conversation with Peggy. One, while he's at work, and two, while everybody else is listening.
Okay, Joe, keep it up.
Oh, it's up and ready. You just keep it warm.
It's warm and ready.
Joe and Frank finally catch up with them after the most obvious drug deal in the world. You can also tell in this scene that they had to do some reshoots, because when they're supposed to be at the pier, you can tell in the background of the shot that they're like at a desert or somewhere that's sandy. I don't think there's supposed to be tumbleweeds and other things at a pier. I could be wrong. And ooh boy, it's chase scene time. But instead of like a normal chase scene, it's like this wacky sped up Tom and Jerry type chase. And in this chase scene, Frank ends up shooting one of the guys out of the back of the van. And out of anything he could have possibly said, he just says, owie. And then instead of trying to like swerve out of the way or dodge him in the middle of the road, even though he's going so freaking slow, he just runs the dude over for some reason.
Hey man, watch it! Watch it! Oh man!
And after a couple minutes of chasing the bad guys, they have them cornered at like a quarry or something so they can finally ask them some questions. I kind of forgot about that. The bad guy's car just kind of explodes randomly when they run into the wall. What, did Michael Bay direct this movie or something? Alright, I'm sorry that was kind of a bad joke. So to make up for it, I'm going to tell you a good joke. Did you hear the yardstick factory is going out of business? Yeah, I heard they won't be making them any longer. And after that exhilarating chase scene, we join our villains for some much needed exposition. And they're talking about how they want to eliminate every other gang in this area, because if they're the only ones there, they're kind of the best one. But there's one thing that stands in their way, and that's Joe, the samurai cop. But worst of all, he's fluent in Japanese.
They call him Samurai. He speaks fluent Japanese.
Are you telling me you don't believe them? Well, check this out.
What does katana mean?
It means Japanese sword.
And something else that I didn't understand about this movie, other than the fact that this entire movie just doesn't make sense, is that every cop in this entire station is just horny 24/7 for no reason. Like, Joe is just constantly flirting with every woman that he sees.
Do you like what you see?
I love what I see.
Would you like to touch what you see?
Yes. Yes, I would.
And then Peggy, the other police officer, who I thought was Joe's girlfriend, just out of nowhere later in the movie, starts flirting with one of the police officers and asks them to bang her out of the blue?
Hey, preacher.
Yeah?
You and I got nothing to do. Let's fuck.
Shut up.
And the only police officer that I don't think is horny 24/7 is Frank, but he still stands there where everybody else is flirting and just makes the goofiest faces in the world. I also want to point out the fact how much effort the guy that played the commissioner put into that character. If anybody deserves an award from this movie, I'd definitely give it to that guy.
I feel like somebody stuck a big club up my ass, and it hurts.
And then Joe and Frank head out of there to go confront the leader of the gang. But randomly, Frank just kisses the commissioner on his forehead?
You son of a bitch!
And when Joe confronts the leader of the gang, we get to see his amazing display of Japanese.
Are you Fujiyama?
Yes, I am.
And after causing a little bit of a ruckus in the restaurant, of course, Yamashita sends all of his men outside to attack Joe and Frank. But this is where we get to see why Joe is called the samurai cop.
So what are you gonna do? Fight this guy barehanded?
Oh, come on, Frank. What the hell was that? I thought I was about to see the greatest sword fight in cinematic history, and you had to go and ruin it like that? But on a serious note, why doesn't this happen in more movies? Like, there's been so many times, you know, people are like sword fighting or fist fighting, and there's somebody just idly sitting at the side with a gun, and they could just go bang, 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 and just end it instantly.
Damn.
And after the fight is over and the dust settles, randomly Yamashita just blows up both of the cars. And for some reason, Frank's not really upset that his car just got blown up.
God, man, look what they done to my car. Captain Roman's gonna burn my ass.
Yeah, he's gonna burn it. Charcoal black.
It is black. Right on.
And sometime later, Joe goes back to the restaurant to talk to the owner, but the only thing that I want to talk about in this scene is the elephant in the room. Or should I say this ugly ass lion head. Like, I want to know where the hell they got something like this, or if they made it or whatever, and where I can get one. Like, imagine it like right here somewhere, maybe like right here's like a perfect decoration. Like, that would be so cool. And of course, while Joe is talking to the owner of the restaurant, there's a bunch of goons that are just waiting to fight him downstairs. And after beating the tar out of these dudes, Joe figures out where one of the leaders is at, but not before we get one of the most jarring cuts in the world.
All right. I need his address.
How do we know that this is the right house?
Yeah, I had to go back like 3 times. I thought my VHS skipped for a second, and then I remembered I was watching it on YouTube, so I don't know why it would skip. And then literally like seconds later, Joe says this.
On the other hand, if it's the wrong house, then we'll apologize to the owner. The usual police routine.
Joe, I'm pretty sure that's called breaking and entering, and you're a police officer. You should know this shit. And it turns out Joe and Frank aren't as bad as I originally thought, because it turns out this house belongs to Okamura, who is also one of the other gang leaders. And you know what time it is. It's denim on denim fight scene time. It's time for a good fight. Hold on a second. Did you see that? His hair was fake? Are you telling me this entire movie is a lie? None of this is real? What are you gonna tell me next? That Joe isn't even fluent in Japanese?
You get on the phone and you tell me that these, what's his name? Omaha, Yamaha, whatever his name is, right?
But this fight's pretty sweet, because after it's done, Joe and Frank finally have somebody that they can interrogate and get some information from. I keep on forgetting how much Joe and Frank just suck at their job. And after the second time of this happening, they go back to the police station, which they figured out is being raided for some reason by the Katana Gang. And I wish I could show more of this scene, but for some reason they use the most like nasty, weird red lights, and it is so hard to see like anything that's happening. So after realizing another member of their gang was killed, they just start going to the police officers' houses and start beating the heck out of them, trying to get as much info as they can. And you might be asking, what's Joe doing in the meantime? Is he trying to get some information on the Katana Gang, maybe figure out where their HQ is at, or figure out where they're located? No, his horny ass is at Jennifer's house, the owner of the restaurant, and he's just out swimming in the ocean in a freaking Speedo. But don't worry, while Joe's out there fondling some fish, Frank is killing members of the Katana Gang in a freaking towel.
Leave him alone! Leave him alone, I said!
And why does the movie go from Yamashita pouring hot oil over Peggy's body to this?
Happy birthday to you.
Why was this necessary? How did Joe even know that it was Jennifer's birthday? And for the love of Frank, Joe, put something on. Take that Speedo off. Oh my God. No, don't just take it off. Put something else on. Joe. And the next scene is just a bunch of wacky shootouts, so I'll show you some of my favorites. And eventually Joe and Jennifer do escape, and then Joe goes back to the police station to hear about everybody's wacky encounters at their houses. And then they meet up with the commissioner and talk about all the recent events. But man, I hope they settle everything in a civilized manner and maybe lock everybody up in jail?
There's only one thing in this world I want. I want you to find that Japanese gangster. I want you to kill him, and I want you to kill every one of his men. I want you to turn his house into a bloodbath. Don't leave anybody alive.
Yeah, I guess you're just go absolutely buck wild and just kill everybody? Okay. All right, here we freaking go. Joe and Frank finally made it to the evil villain's base. But how are they going to infiltrate it? How are they going to get into the secret base?
Why did you come under?
I'm an undercover cop.
And once again, it is just the most amazing and terrible gunfight that I've ever seen in a movie. I don't know which part to talk about first, so I'm just gonna show you how this one dude died in the fight. And I want to point out the fact that this whole last sequence of the movie is 30 freaking minutes. That's a third of the entire movie, and it's just about them like shooting these dudes and infiltrating the base. And then after one of the most ridiculous sword fights between Joe and Yamashita, the movie's finally over, and they can just put the Katana Gang behind bars. Well, actually they do end up just killing every member of the Katana Gang, kind of like what the commissioner said, so I guess problem solved? And there you have it. That's basically Samurai Cop. It was the most ridiculous cop movie that I think I've ever seen, but maybe not for long if I end up watching the second one. And it's kind of crazy, the sequel came out in 2015, and it still has a good chunk of the original cast in it. And I wish I could have squeezed way more scenes from the movie into this video, so I guess I'll just leave you with this one that is just so out of pocket.
You burned my ass.
You don't have to worry about that. It's already,
Yeah, I know. It's already black, huh? This time he probably cut my dick too, huh?
You better come to my house before you report to the captain.
For what?
Let's use it before you lose it.
But if you liked the video, I'd appreciate a sub or like. It would be freaking amazing. And if you have any recommendations on shitty movies, I would love to hear it. But if you'll excuse me, I'm on my way to go become fluent in Japanese.